Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. This is Anthony Ray. I'm one of the attorneys here at Ray Law International. We had some technical difficulties, but I think we got those resolved. Sorry about any of the time mix-ups. This was scheduled for 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. It seems it was a little bit off. So if there's any confusions, don't worry about it. If you're going to be watching this afterwards, feel free to put your comments in the chat. We'll still respond to them, or you can always respond to us or connect with us directly. All right. Again, Anthony Ray here at Ray Law International. Here's our monthly live stream. Today, we're going to be talking about employment-based immigration. What does that really mean? That means green cards, obtaining your green cards through employers or through some form of employment, or your employment history, background, or education is what gets you the green card. So we're going to be talking about that today. Before we jump into our brief presentation today, just a couple notes. Wanted to go over the new December visa bulletin. Now, just real briefly, the December 2024 visa bulletin put out by the State Department is out. We're not going to put this on the screen. I just want to touch base with a few categories. Now, I am only going to look at the final action dates. This is when the green cards are available, not when you can actually apply or file your immigrant visa or your application to adjust status 485. Here, though, the final action date for all other countries under EB2 and EB3 from November to December, there was essentially no change. Okay, it stayed the same. It didn't move. It didn't progress. It didn't retrogress. It just stayed right there. Not a good thing for a lot of people who want those numbers to move forward so that they can then apply for their green card. Let's take a look briefly at those from India. They're very popular and they really want to know, has those visa bulletin dates progressed or retrogressed? For EB2, they have progressed slightly. And from July to August, not much, but it's something. It's at least it's moving forward. Unfortunately for EB3, for Indian nationals, there has been no movement. It's essentially the same. Under the EB1, there's also essentially no change. So we're still in the same boat, same place as you were in the visa bulletin as in November. So December dates for Indian nationals, not much change. Let's look at the Chinese nationals. For Chinese EB1, there's essentially no change. For EB2, no change. And for EB3, again, no change, no movement. So if your priority date was current for under November, they are still current under December, and we did not see any retrogression. Obviously, you can always look at Mexico and the Philippines under the employment base, but those numbers are a lot more current and more, a lot better. Again, no movement on either of those from November to December. So visa bulletin, quick update, not much change. There was slight movement in one category for Indian nationals under the EB2. So that's a quick update there. And before we jump in, one other quick update. As you know, there was this thing we have in the United States called a national general election. And in that general election, the United States populace, through our electoral college, selected Donald Trump. They are still counting votes, but, he's projected, he has been elected. So Donald Trump will be our next president going forward, and from 2025. We'll have a lot of news coming up. Our December live stream will be focused on those changes of what to expect, what to do. As for many of my people and people we've discussed and talked over the years, I've told them, save your money because you're going to need it. And I think 2025 and forward will be that time where you're going to need to spend some money. whether that's saving, taking your money back to your home country, whether that's using it on legal representation to fight to stay in the United States to keep your family together, whatever that looks like, 2025 is going to be the time that you really need to use the money that you saved up and invested over the years that you've been in the United States. You have to be ready to fight. Reach out to your immigration attorney. You can reach out to us. Our number is going to be on the screen below. We'll go through your options. We'll refresh. If you talked to us before, we'll go back through and then, make sure that no changes have occurred. But keep this in mind. President Trump and his administration take over from January 20th. So from January 20th, we expect many changes. So you have to stay tuned. Normally in immigration, we see changes monthly, and even without a new administration. So in this case, we're going to see 2 or 3 times that amount of changes. You need to stay in touch. Don't just listen to Google. Listen to a professional. I believe I was speaking with someone the other day, and they were in the medical field. And I asked them, do you go to Google you're a nurse. Do you go to Google to get your medical information? And they just laughed. This is a professional area of law. It changes. It's life-changing for you and your family. You want to make that investment, okay? Just like you would a doctor. If you need a second opinion, get a second opinion with your immigration attorney. If you are doing your taxes or investments, you want to have a professional that's licensed to help you. Don't just go on the local news, which exaggerates quite a bit, or just from what happened to your friend many years ago. This is a new era. They're looking at mass deportations. We don't know what that's going to look like, but we're going to kind of peel that back a little bit at our next live stream. We're also going to talk about how these changes will impact employment-based cases. So HR, CEOs, how is this going to impact your company? If there's a raid and they take half your employees away, you have no one to hire and work and produce the widgets that you're creating, how are you going to handle that? And are there penalties for you? What are some of the things that are going to happen? It's going to be an exciting live stream in December. Look for that. Connect with us on YouTube, LinkedIn, to make sure that you get the latest information, because there's going to be a lot going on. Just to let you know, immigration attorneys all around the country are prepping and preparing for the changes to come in less than 2 months. So we're all working together to help not just, foreign nationals, but also U.S. citizens, family members, businesses. There's so many people that are going to be affected by the changes that are coming. So stay tuned, stay connected. All right. So let's get into what our topic is today. Today, put that up on the screen. We're going to be talking about employment-based immigration. What does that mean? That's a fancy terminology for getting your green card through an employer or some form of employment. There are 5 employment-based preference categories. Let's go to that next slide. Excellent. And just a quick, let's go back one. So brief overview, there's 5 employment-based preference categories. First employment-based preference category, we usually say EB1 just for short. So we have EB1, EB2, EB3, EB4, and EB5. So underneath these 5 categories are subcategories. We're going to dive into them in a minute, but today we're going to focus really on just 4 of the 5. And we're really just going to touch the top of this. There's so much. We can spend hours on each of these categories and all the details. Today, we're just going to skim the surface, give you a good glance. Maybe there's something that will pique your interest. Feel free to contact us, schedule an immigration consultation to see how you fit within one of these categories. If one of these categories requires U.S. employer, we always have to have that U.S. employer, the decision maker, there with you to make sure that they hear the presentation, they understand the process, the obligations, and the requirements, and answer any questions that they may have so that we can make a decision and move forward. All right, let's go to the next one. Let's see. I know we have a lot to cover, so I want to make sure that we cover everything. What is the purpose of employment-based immigration? One of the main things is to control immigration. Now, in the US, we actually have a shortage. We really need more people to come in and do some of the jobs that us US citizens do not or will not or choose not to do. The process is able to control that process to make sure that we're bringing in the types of people that we need. Now, the system is very old. However, it's the one we have and the one we continue to use. Another key in most of these categories, there are limits. It's not this, the sky's the limit. Each of these categories have limits or quotas. So there's a backlog. That's why we were talking about that visa bulletin at the very beginning. That shows that there are backlogs or quotas for each of those preference categories. Now, there's a few exceptions such as VAWA and whatnot, but the majority of the categories has a quota so that we're just not bringing half a country into our country. Also, the quotas are broken down based off of skill, education, and under the EB5, which we'll touch on today, the amount of the investment that you have. All right, let's go to the next one. Let's touch base on the EB1. EB1, there's 3 subcategories. There's the extraordinary ability, outstanding professor or researchers, and multinational executives or managers. Now, these are great categories if you qualify. The best way to see if you qualify is provide us with a detailed, comprehensive resume so that we can make sure and go through that resume to see which of these categories, if any, you fit into. This is a really quick way to get a green card. And when we talk about quick, don't get me wrong, we're not talking Amazon quick, tomorrow or next day. And quick for immigration under the current administration is about 1 to 2 years, okay? That's quick for getting a green card through an employer in the US. Obviously, things will change. Talk to me in February, March, and April of next year. These processing times may change, and we're going to keep you updated. So be ready for that. If you qualify for one of these, you want to file before January, okay? Get it in. You want to file when there's a known, okay? And there's some consistency. That's what we have now. So if you file now, great. If you wait until next year, who knows what the immigration landscape is going to look like. The key elements to the EB1 is 1, you don't need a labor certification. You say, Mr. Ray, what is labor certification? Labor certification is a process, also called PERM process, is where the government, the Department of Labor, requires that employers test the U.S. job market to see if there's any U.S. citizen or green card holder available to take that job. Now, under EB1, you don't need to do that. So we skip a whole process. That process can take up to a year to 18 months, a year and a half. So you're really just carving off a huge chunk of time by not doing labor certification. And that's why EB1 generally tends to be a faster category. Also, on the visa bulletin, there's less people that qualify. Therefore, there's less of a wait for you to qualify for that green card under the EB1 categories, generally speaking, regardless of which country. Obviously, for China, India, Mexico, and the Philippines, there often tends to be a longer wait. However, I believe on the visa bulletins for EB1, Mexican nationals, and Philippine nationals, they qualify. There's no wait. It's a very quick way to get a green card if you meet those requirements. Now, when I say national, what I mean from that is not citizenship. Citizenship can be achieved from any country that allows you to become a citizen. Nationality is only one country where you were born. Even if you're a citizen, for example, of India, but you were born in the UAE, you are, for U.S. immigration purposes, you are a national of the UAE. okay? Even though the UAE may not have given you citizenship. So keep that in mind. Those are two separate things, nationality and citizenship. All right, let's hit to the next one, EB2. All right, EB2. This is a great category. There are two subcategories, mainly. We have advanced degrees and exceptional ability in the sciences or the national interest waiver. So under this category, we're really looking for those individuals that have sort of gone beyond their bachelor's, their main studies, and achieves a lot more. So advanced degrees are anything of a master's degree or higher. Think doctors, think certain medical specialists that have to get additional training beyond that. Think about getting your master's in nursing or legal, law, doctors, and it just goes on. Maybe you're getting your PhD. So one of the things to remember, there's two subcategories. Now, under the regular EB2, labor certification is required. Okay, that means we got to test the job market. Labor certification, perm process, we've got to do it for the regular EB2. Now, for the national interest waiver, this is what a lot of people are looking to see if they fit into. Under the National Interest Waiver EB2, you don't need to have, one, a U.S. employer involved, and two, you don't need to do labor certification. So this is a really, really good category for many people. The trick is the standards are ultra high, okay? Whatever it is that you're doing has to impact, or your endeavor has to impact the nation and be in the benefit the U.S. in a way that we waive the perm or labor certification process. All right. So it's a great category, but the standards are steep. Think, for example, cancer research, doctors working in a particular specialty area. You often have to have a high salary. A lot of people look at citations, publications, patents, international recognition. I mean, there's so many other requirements under the national interest waiver that you can fit in to help meet that requirement. So reach out to us, check us out. Again, send your resume, detailed CV with all the details, all the articles, all the patents, all the notations and citations that you have out there. Those are going to help make a determination whether you qualify and whether you're going to meet those requirements. Now, the nice thing about this is the process tends to be, for most people, a little bit quicker than EB3, which we'll talk about, but it takes a little bit longer than the EB1. We're not talking a lot. I usually tell people in this category, if all goes smoothly, you're looking at about 2 to 3 years or so, maybe a little bit longer, depending on which category that you're filing under. All right, let's head to EB3, guys. Oh, by the way, if you guys have questions, please throw those in the chat right there. We love to hear from you. Even if you're just listening for the first time, just let us know where you're listening from. Are you interested in family-based, employment-based? Are you concerned about what's going to be happening in 2025? Whatever it is, put those questions in the chat. We love to hear from you, and we will definitely respond to you. Now, let's head over to the EB3. Under the EB3, we have 3 subcategories. We have professionals, we have skilled, and we have other workers or unskilled. So under our professionals, basically the professionals are individuals that have a 4-year degree, okay, or higher, okay? Usually think 4 years, a bachelor's and 2 years of experience, for example. Those are our professionals. Professional positions typically are engineers, accountants, attorneys, doctors, etc. Especially IT as well, or scientists. Other skilled workers, those are individuals that have, or the minimum requirements is to have at least 2 years of experience or training. There may be various jobs that fit under this category. And finally, all other workers. Many years ago, they did have set positions, but they opened that up to all other workers. So, if you're a truck driver, which we're doing one, it's a great category. You need truck drivers? start the green card process for them. This is a way for other workers. You don't have to have 2 years of experience. They do need to be licensed, but there's many ways to approach that, get licensed before they come. We just talked to another person when they were in Africa. They got all their licensing done abroad. They found their job. They came over and they're working in H-1B, and they're going to be starting their green card very soon. So there's many ways to approach these three categories. It's very flexible. It does take time and a lot of work. But after that, the benefits are so immense for you and your family or for the organization. Many companies are saying, I can't find anybody, or really hard, dedicated workers who are going to stick and with you long term. This is an avenue that we speak with many employers. Now, in this category, labor certification or the PERM process is required. Each of these three stages has different PERM or labor certification requirements to test the job market. Professionals is going to be more expensive, with about 6 forms of recruitment that are required, whereas skilled and other workers are going to be a lot less and more reasonable. The process is a lot slower. There are more people in the category, more people that qualify, and that for certain countries such as China, Mexico, and others, and India, there are significant backlogs, okay? Doesn't mean you shouldn't try. Some people in India may be waiting for 10, 15 years, but there may be other things that you accomplish that may put you in that EB1 category or EB2. All right, that's EB3. Let's go to our next topic. Keep moving along. Here are some comparisons, just a quick overview. Labor certificate, EB1's no labor certification is probably the fastest way you're going to get the green card up through employment base. And it's really for people who have accomplished a lot, okay? If you just got your PhD and haven't done much, it's going to be a very challenging, not impossible, but very challenging. There may be options for you, but it all depends on not just, 10 years of experience or, getting the Nobel Peace Prize or whatever. There's many other ways to get it, and many people do every single day. EB2, advanced degrees, another great category a lot of people want to get into. One of the key things to remember under the EB2 compared to the EB3, the prevailing wage or the wage is going to be higher, okay? Think, for example, the wage range for EB3 professionals may be anywhere from 50 to 80,000, whereas for EB2 you're looking at 90 to 200,000, depending on the area of the country that you live in. Now, last time, we're going to be talking about this next week, but a lot's going to change in the green card area, okay? It may become a lot harder to get the green card. The last time the administration was in power, they really tried to reserve it for the highest paid, highest achieved people, or whoever paid the most. And, it's going to really weed out some of the smaller companies or people who may not have done that, have achieved that high level of income, or are not at the top position. So be mindful of that. Again, the time to file, I can't stress this enough. All the attorneys are saying it. File now before some of these aggressive immigration changes are put in place, which may prevent you or block you out forever. Okay? All right, let's move on. That's comparison for the EB1, EB2, and EB3. Now, let's jump to the EB5. Again, if you have questions, go ahead, throw your questions in the chat. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what you're experiencing. What are your concerns or fears about the new administration, and how is that going to impact either your company, your HR department, or your employees, or your family? We really want to hear from you. So go ahead, throw this in the chat. Let us know. We're a caring immigration law firm. We really take time to get to know our clients, and we really want to reach out to them. Check out our Google reviews. It kind of gives you a perspective of how we're different and how we take care of our clients here. All right, EB5. EB5 is the 5th employment-based preference category. It's at the end. Think entrepreneur, investor, someone who has a large sum of money in order to invest in the United States. This was established back in 1990 to stimulate the U.S. economy and get people to invest more money. It's a great way to do it. Unfortunately, since 1990, there's been a lot of issues with this category, a lot of corruption and problems. It all went all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. One of the difficult aspects of the EB5, because it involves a huge investment, SEC rules get involved, accountants are involved, and no one was being held accountable. The changes in the law that we see now and continue to see are to safeguard this visa category. Unfortunately, when there's more bureaucracy and red tape, when you're trying to safeguard something, it makes it a lot more expensive. Just a quick note on this, those companies or organizations that have regional center certification, the USCIS has given those entities an additional time to pay their annual $20,000 annual fee to the USCIS by the end of December. So keep that in mind. If you haven't paid for the year before, last year, or this year, you need to pay $20,000 a year. So guys, this is not cheap. The regional centers that operate, they've got to put out $20,000, depending on the number of investors they have each year as they keep their center going. So there's a drive to get more investors involved. There's a drive to get the projects done and finished so that they don't just keep giving money to the USCIS. Okay, that's a note. End of December, they extended that. If you don't do that, the USCIS is going to take actions to revoke your regional center certification, which everyone knows is very costly and takes a lot of time to get. All right. So the nice thing about the EB5 is that you can, it's not just for the investor, it could be for their family member, immediate family members as well. Immediate family members in this case is spouse and children under the age of 25. Moving next, minimum investments will vary depending on whether you're doing regional centers or investing directly yourself. We'll take a look at that in just a moment when we look at some of the requirements. But just to give you an overview of what we're really talking about on investments. If you're investing on your own outside of the regional centers, you're looking at mainly $1.05 million in investments, and you got to create 10 jobs. That's it, okay? If you have a business that's able to do that, that is a good way to get a green card for you and your family. In certain areas, that investment amount is reduced down to a lower amount, down to $800,000, and for regional centers, it's $800,000 as well. You still have to create the 10 full-time jobs here in the U.S., and your investment can be in new commercial, existing, or troubled businesses. Okay, so those are the main points for the EB5. If that's something of interest, definitely reach out to us. The next slide we have is regarding targeted employment areas. These are areas in the U.S. where there's high unemployment, 155% of the poverty guidelines. So also, this just lowers your investment down to $800,000. It's a good way to move investment, move people outside of the crowded cities, so that there's development outside of that. It's a great program. It's a great way to do that. You know, for example, we've had a lot of dentists and doctors who, you know, they don't want to be in a crowded city, but they can move their practice outside in a rural area and really service people outside of, you know, city centers. All right, now we're going to look at the process of the EB5. At this point, which just real briefly, there's 4 steps. We're going to look at a flow chart after this, but you know, there's 4 steps. Mainly, we're going to file a petition. Next, the person's going to get conditional green card for 2 years. After that, they're going to remove the condition, and then finally, they're going to get an unrestricted 10-year green card. This flow chart kind of walks us through part of that process. As you can see at the very top, you determine which EB5 program you want. Do you want to do the individual EB5, meaning you control all your investments, or do you want to go with a regional center? Okay, regional centers are great. I mean, you just put your money in and you sit back. However, There is risk of loss in all of this, okay? We cannot advise you due to SEC rules. We're not certified to do that, but there is risk. That's why they often make sure that you get a financial advisor in the picture so that you understand the risk and have been advised of your investments. Under on the right-hand side, the regional center, they have everything set up. You give them the money, you sit back, you let them do all the work. Think think about condominiums in Florida or along the Gulf Coast, or the ski resorts out west. Those are some very common. There's many others, but the process has become very expensive, so the projects have to be very large. After that, basically, at the yellow, we fund the source. You transfer, all the funds have to come from a legal source, and we have to document all of that. We file the initial petition 526. Processing times are long, but hey, we don't have a choice. Okay? Hopefully, processing times will become reduced. We'll see what happens with the next administration. If you're in the US and you have this filed, then you can file your green card application to adjust status form I-485. That's nice because you can get your green card here in the US and then start waiting for your 2 years. Or if the processing time for the 526 takes longer, you can still get employment authorization and travel document, and allows you and your family members to do what they need to do while you wait for that petition to be approved or the green card. Now, once the conditional green card is approved on this side in the US, after 2 years, you then file Form 820, I think it's 829, 829. And once that's approved, then you get an unrestricted 10-year green card. You're done with the process. Once you file your 829, you have to show you created 10 full-time employment positions. I remember we did this back during the first recession, the Lehman Brothers recession, and we made it through, but we did have to really hire 10 full-time employees near the end, even though there was an huge economic downturn, if you guys can remember that. And after that, you get your green card and you're good to go. Now, on the regional center side, and let's say you're, or whether you're doing it yourself, let's say you're outside the US, you want to continue to run your business in Central, South, or North America before you come to the US, you're going to file everything with the US consulate or embassy, and you're going to file what's called an immigrant visa. That immigrant visa, once approved, is going to allow you and your family members to come to the United States. You'll get, again, a conditional green card. After 2 years, you'll then go ahead and submit your 829 and then remove the condition, and you and your family are green card holders, unrestricted. So that's an overview of the process. There is a ton of things that goes into this. There are so many regulations, and they are changing each year. Congress has to authorize this ever so often when they do their budget. So even though it sounds like a great category, it is tied to Congress and their voting. So it's going to be interesting with the new structure of the U.S. Congress to see how they treat the EB5 programs. This will affect a lot of people. This will impact your decision making as you move forward. All right. Finally, some main points for the EB5. Let's go to the next slide over there. Green card for investors, spouses, and children under 2021. Remember, kids could age out, so you want to start sooner rather than later. You don't have to do the day-to-day operations. You can hire people to do that, but you have to be somewhat involved. You have the freedom to work, study, and do a lot of things outside of just running those businesses. So there's a lot of flexibilities and benefits for the EB5. A couple keynotes to remember. One, the investment must be at risk and you could lose it all. Processing for the first stage may take 2 to 5 years. It depends on the category. Some of the regional centers in certain areas are moving very quickly, even for Chinese nationals and Indian nationals. So you just got to get in the right program and see where those processing times are going. And this process is very complex, both legally and on the financial side. also with Congress involved, it just complicates it more. So you really need a lot of patience and make sure that this investment is not your whole, life savings. This is not what you want to do for your life savings. All right. Benefits, of course, it creates growth here in the U.S. And some of the challenges we have, and I think we're going to continue to see this, you can go to that next slide, is you're going to see backlogs and processing times increase and country caps. So just what I talked about for the EB1, 2, and 3 categories early on at the beginning of our session today, you're going to want to take time and pay attention to the backlogs processing times under the EB5 as well. Okay? All right. I think we are almost near the end. We talked on, remember, 5 employment-based categories. We're just summing up. Let's go to that next one. Go to the next one. Yeah, there we go. All right, so summary. Out of the 5, we talked about 4 of the employment-based categories, EB1, EB2, EB3, and EB5. We skipped over EB4. We'll save that for another time. Really great category to look at. Immigration really does shape how the U.S. competes in the world. The U.S. has done awesome for the past many years, and we continue to hope that competitiveness will continue as we move forward. We have so many positive things going for us here in the U.S., and immigration is essential for that growth. Okay, whether you're in Silicon Valley, whether you have people picking crops in the Midwest or in California or on the East, whatever it is, or whether you have investors in New York, foreign nationals, immigrants are vital to our success. People are investing in the U.S. because there's certainty. They know their money's not going to be stolen by the government. Pay attention to potential reforms and future developments. We have a Supreme Court that's a little bit different, so we're going to see how they roll and look at that. We're going to be talking about some of the impacts of the future changes of what you can expect coming up in our December live stream. You guys, again, my name is Anthony Ray. We have one last slide with our information on it. Reach out to us, Facebook, Instagram, Indeed, YouTube. However, the best way to reach out to us is to pick up that phone, give us a call at 888-401-1016 and schedule an appointment so we have a one-on-one. If it's something that we can handle, we'll schedule you and get you taken care of. Time right now is of the essence. We don't know what's going to happen. You want to file ASAP. Let me wait a minute, see if there's any other questions from our audience. Feel free to throw a question. It doesn't have to be about employment-based immigration. It could be pretty much anything. We do other areas of immigration, but today we sort of just are focusing on the EB employment-based categories for those out there. Any questions? Okay, guys. Well, we're going to call it a day. We're going to give you the rest of your day back. If you have questions, reach out to us. Again, our phone number is 888-401-1016. Again, my name is Anthony Ray here on the Ray Law International channel. You guys have a great day and a great week. Talk to you soon. Bye now.